Hello, everyone.
성경 말씀 마가복음 6장 35절
We'll read Mark chapter 6 from verse 35.
마가복음 6장 35절부터 제가
Mark chapter 6, verse 35.
때가 저물어
And when
가면
the day was now far
예수께서
spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past.
우리를 보내
Send them away that they may go
마을
into the
곳으로
country round about and into the village and buy themselves
여호와의
bread, for they have nothing to
말씀을
eat.
먹을 것을
He
주라.
answered and said unto them, Give ye them to eat. And they said unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread and give them to eat? He saith unto them, How many loaves have ye? Go and see. And when they knew, they say, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies unto the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by fifties. And when they had taken in the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and brake the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set them before them, and the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. We're up to verse 44.
성경에 있는 하나님의 귀한 역사들을 경험할 수 있게 해주는
We have so much opportunities to experience the works of God. And so it'd be so nice if only one person takes a lunchbox and we can all eat that one lunchbox all together. And you read the Bible is the Word of God.
이제 우리가 이런 이야기를 읽을 때
When we read the words, is this possible?
어떻게 조금 가지고
How can you feed the multitude with such small portions of food and have leftovers? Doesn't make any sense. But this is recorded in the Bible because it is what God has done and because it is the truth and this has happened.
중요한 것은
And the most important thing is, let's say,
목숨은 아직 안 그렇지만
not past Oaks Park yet,
이제 들어서면
but let's say you enter into a more spiritual stage. The times when you are poor, when you are hungry, when you receive God's grace.
반드시 일어날 수 있다는 것을 이야기해 주고 있는
God is sharing to us that these are things that are more than possible.
목사로 일을 하고 있습니다.
I am working as a pastor in the church. I read the Bible, and oftentimes I would use the Bible and I can share about spiritual life.
경우에는 내가
But in some instances,
설교를 할 수 있는 사람인가 그런
I'm
생각을 해보면
even doubting and questioning myself, am I a person who can preach about this?
이야기만 했더니 쉬운 것이 아니구나 그런 마음이 드는
And sometimes I have a heart just preaching about this is not so easy. And when I'm trying to preach about this, having bread on some plate and trying to feed the multitude, it doesn't make sense. When can I experience this? There are times when I have this kind of heart.
설교에 대한 아직 한 번도 제가 한 설교를 잘했다 못했다 그런 평가하는 분들은 아직 못 들어봤어요.
So I haven't found anyone who has been evaluating my preaching or sermons,
들어오신 분들이 있는데
but there are those who come to listen to my sermons.
우리 설교를 들은 사람이나
But
이 말씀을 들은
Those who listen to the words, those who listen to the sermon,
최소한
at least,
건 아니라도
all things besides,
예수님만큼은 아니지만 좀
even though I'm not like Jesus, if I still have faith,
내가 지금 한 달에 받는 월급이 얼마인데
how much salary do I receive monthly? With this,
도와가면서 얼마나 살수 있겠다
how much can I live off of this?
수 있을 거라는 생각이 들어요.
And so, having the faith to live by this for the gospel.
정말 우리가 떡 한 개를 가지고
And truly, with one loaf of bread to give to many, we don't have that kind of power.
반드시 우리 안에
But surely within us,
살아.
Jesus is alive and working within us.
내가 하는 건 아니지 만일에 예수님이 일하신다면
If Jesus were to work inside of my heart, then I too,
좀 일어났으면 좋겠다.
I wish that these things will happen in my life.
좀 죄송합니다.
I'm sorry to say, talk about my family, but time to time,
믿음이 있었으면 얼마나 좋을까?
how much would be nice, how nice would be if my wife had more faith. And also for me, how much would be nice if I had faith. Sometimes I think about these things. And within our church, our ministers, when they go through difficulties, how nice it would be if they can overcome them by faith. And these are things that I think time to time. And lots of time has passed, I became an elderly pastor. And I say this often. In our mission, we have no retirement policy. And standing on the pulpit is still something that I can do. And other churches there are set on their retirement. And so if you pass that limit, age limit, then you cannot stand on the pulpit. But still, I'm standing on the pulpit and there's no one refraining me from standing here. Coming up here and preaching, even though it may be the same words, to all of the church members in their hearts. And according to these words, Jesus, with just a few loaves of bread, he has fed the multitude, and is a truth, and there was leftover fragments left over. We are the disciples of Jesus. If we are one with Jesus, then even though these things may not be possible, but let's say I make I make 100 million won, and let's say if I can make 1.5 million won, and as we stand in faith to have these kind of things possible in our lives, and not just overlooking these words in the Bible, but in your heart, Jesus has washed away my sins. Jesus is with me. And also, whenever we go through difficulties, the Lord will work. And these are things that are so amazing through God. And as I lived my life, the things that which I have went through, there are lots of difficulties. From here on out, can I continue my ministry? From here on out, can I continuously preach the gospel? There were times occasionally when I have these thoughts. And during these times, the Lord, when He gives me strength, the Lord, when He helps me, the Lord, when He bestows grace upon me, then the Lord, when He works, there is that process. And the Lord will work. According to my faith, God works. And how much faith will God give me? And that is very important. And truly, if we have faith, at first we see how God helps us in small matters and big and greater matters. And this also is possible through God. And as our faith grows, our life inside the faith will continuously grow. And as people, if we are listening to the words, the preachings in our church, then at least, I'm sorry to say this, okay, Pastor, it may sound bad if a pastor say this, but if we have faith as we listen to the words from pastor's sermon, if we rely upon the words of God, a person who has no car, they have to ride the public transportation, they have to walk, and they have to get off this bus stop, they have to transfer onto another bus, and they walk again. And so rather than being that kind of person, if you just purchase a car, then you can go from one point to your destination. Oh, I will need a car. And so people, they begin to have a heart, I want a car. But if I have no conditions to buy the car, but I have the Jesus within my heart, then Jesus, how is He working in my life? He has washed away my sins. He has saved me. And when my children were in difficult times, He has helped them. When I was in difficult times, God has answered my prayer. And amazing things happen. And around my 40s, my body was very ill. And I was very unhealthy. And I was thinking, how many years do I have left to live? And my heart, I felt that God has bestowed grace upon me, and I began to pray with faith in my heart.
미국 가서 집회라고
When I went to America after I finished the conference there,
몇몇 남미 몇몇 나라 가야
and I had plans to visit several countries in South America, and I was thinking, will I be able to go?
죽어도 가야겠다고
Even if I die, I should go, and I went.
집회를 하는데 그때
And as we were holding the conference,
정말 몸이 안 좋아.
really my body was so ill,
제 사회를
and the MC was
피곤해서
giving comments, and I was in the back, and I couldn't sit down, so I went backstage and I had to lay down.
집회를 마치고 공항에서
And after we finished the conference, and as we boarded the plane and went back to Korea, the brothers and sisters who came to greet me and to say farewells, what they said was, "This is the last time we see Pastor Oksu Park," and that's what they all said in the airport.
굉장히 안 좋아.
And in actual truth, my body was very ill.
믿음으로 내 질병하고 싸워야 하는 위치에 있을
When I was in a position when I had to fight my bodily illness
누굴
by
의지해서
faith.
이게 가능하지 않는 이야기.
These are things which is not possible with people.
이게 없었다.
I was in a position where I can only rely upon God.
그걸 키우기 위해서 그런 일을
God wanted me to increase in faith, therefore He allowed these things to happen in my life.
하나님 앞에
Truly, before God, I prayed sincerely.
기도는 어느 날 내 마음에
And one day in my heart,
하는 사람 나를 도우시겠다.
I had heart that God will help me, God will protect me. And that's the heart that began to arise.
지금은 내가
And now,
수 없을 만큼 몸이 좋아지는.
my body is so unimaginably healthy.
그때 발끝까지
From the top of my head to the soles of my feet, I am so healthy.
종종 젊은
Time to time, when I play ball with some of the young people,
운동에 참 좋더라.
and so playing ball and exercising is very good for the body.
정도
So oftentimes I will kick ball for around an hour, and it's fun.
또 하고 나면 몸이
And also after, my body feels refreshed and it feels so good.
그래서 제가 그 전에는
And before,
내가 참 몸이 안 좋았거든.
my body was so ill as we finished the conference in America. And that was during the time when I was living in Daejeon in Korea. And that time we were building our center building, and you know the scaffold.
인부들을 볼 수가 없어.
When I couldn't even look upon the workers on the scaffold because it made my heart thump so much, and I had to close my eyes.
내가 하나님 일을 하기 위해서
In order to do the work of God, I must do everything else,
믿음이 있어야 하는.
but I must have the faith to believe in God.
그때는 내가
And during those times,
아니면
if it is not this, then there's only death.
하나님 의존하고
I must rely upon God, and the faith to rely upon God, that is the path which I began to go
하나님
forward.
정말 저를 굉장하게 그때부터 건강하게 해주셨어요.
And starting from then, that's when God began to truly make my body so healthy. And as I kick ball, people they're shocked.
한국에 어디 가도 80
Wherever you go in Korea, there's no 80-year-old man who is kicking ball with young people.
젊은 사람하고 재미가 있어요.
And it is so fun playing with young people. Yes, I'm not so good, but there are some times when I win.
이제 우리가 갖고 있는 여기에
From where we are now,
앞으로 여러분들이 우리 교회 안에 신앙생활하면서
and the spiritual life that you will continue to live in the church,
길만 걷지 않고
you will be not only walking
가정에 어떤
just
문제가 있을 수 있고
a path with no difficulties. You know, there are times when your children might get hurt, might get sick, and you might be financially difficult, you might be at a loss. And there are things like this that will come across your life.
우리가 옛날에는 그런 근심하고
And long time ago, we would be concerned, we will be in worry, we will be in despair.
근데 그때 우리가
And during these times, in our heart,
일을 주셔가지고
God has given those things to our lives. And when He gives these things in our lives, no other way,
뭐 누구에게 돈을 빌리거나
borrowing money from others or requesting money from somewhere, and when you have no other way
조용히 하나님 앞에 나가서
to quietly
기도하고
go before the Lord and to pray, pray, and pray.
돈이 없어 진짜 막
And truly, when I had no money, I'm sorry to say, I'm not saying I don't have money right now. But long time ago,
옛날 이야기고
this is a long time ago.
진짜 돈이 없을 때
Truly, when I had no money,
성경을 쓰고 예수님이 계시다.
in the Bible, Jesus is here.
만일에 예수님이
If Jesus was here,
문제
this problem
해결할 수 있습니다.
of money will be solved right away.
그럼 내가 어떻게 해야 예수님 그 돈을 나에게 주실까?
Then how can Jesus give me this money? I felt like Jesus has lots of money.
원장님 없으신 분 같은데
I felt like Jesus had no lackings.
돈을 주실까?
What can I do for Jesus to give me money?
믿음으로
By faith to seek him.
그리고 그 다음에 말씀
And afterwards, as whatsoever you pray, when you believe that you have received it,
그게
and ye shall have them.
굉장히
And at first it's very vague. Oh, you say that,
돈이 없는
so having money in your pocket and not having money in your pocket is very simple. But believing that you have money,
돈이 되는 건 아니잖아요.
the belief that you have money will not just create paper money in your pockets. Then praying and believing, what should I do?
믿음 가졌습니다.
If I have faith and if I do, can I make a transaction in the store with that? You cannot do that.
이제 이런 부분들을 겪으면서
And as you go through these things,
내 속에 살아계셔 이런저런 문제를 해결하시는데
and God, He solves all sorts of problems in our lives, our problems of health,
일어난 문제도
and also all sorts of problems that we come across, financial problems.
이 오늘 읽은 이 성경 말씀
And the words that we read today,
하는데 모여 많이 있는
many people they have gathered, and
없으니까요.
they had no food. Yes, they had food, but they had very little food.
왜냐면 너에게 떡 몇 개나 있느냐?
It says, "And how many loaves have ye? Go and see." And when they knew, they say 5 and 2 fishes.
떡이 뭐 이만한 떡이라고
Let's say even if it is this big loaf of bread, how many people can eat the 5 loaves and 2 fish?
없는 양인데
It is nothing compared to that multitude.
너에게 떡 몇 개나
And
있느냐 가서 보라.
He asked, "How many loaves have ye? Go and see." And when they knew, they say 5 and 2 fishes.
제자들을 명하여
And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies
때를 지어
upon the green grass.
함께 하시니 때로는 혹 백씩 혹
And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by fifties.
예수께서
And when they had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes,
이만을 가지사
he looked up to heaven
하시고
and blessed and brake the loaves and gave them to the disciples to set before them, and the 2 fishes divided he among them all.
함께 나누어 주심에 다
And they all eat and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of fragments and of the fishes. And they did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men.
이거 이제 실제로 우리 계산하고는 안 맞아요.
This does not match our calculations, right?
근데 저는 무슨
But what I thought about was,
생각은 안 돼.
I can't reach this level.
떡 5개 가지고
5 barley loaves and 2 fish feeding 5,000. I can't reach that level. I've never experienced this before.
그렇지만
But
내 안에 예수님이 계시는
Jesus inside of my heart, that is irrefutable.
해야 할 일들이 있는데
And there are the works which I have to do in the future. And the money,
많은 춤이 있는데 500만 원이 필요하다.
let's say I have 1,000,001, but I need 5,000,001.
그러면 이제
Then,
성경에 나오는 이
according to the Bible,
내게도 이런
the works that happen in the Bible, the works of the Bible is manifested in my life, and that is the truth.
내가 믿는 똑같은
Because the Jesus that they believe in is the same Jesus that I believe in. Just because Jesus is 2,000 years older than what they believed in doesn't mean that he is less powerful. He is God. He is almighty.
내가 그런 믿음을 가졌을 때
And when I have that faith, then will God really work? And within these thoughts, we think, these things, that kind of faith, only the great preachers, they can have that faith. I cannot have this faith.
제일 편한 거 그게 편하지 그죠?
That is the most simple thing to.
없는데
believe. I'll just rather starve. Just praying all the time for the food. And sometimes it's frustrating. But the important thing is, everyone, the words of the Bible.
식사할 때
When you eat,
하겠다는 얘기니까요.
it means that God, He will help you in these kind of times.
했는데
And it says that you have none, but you see how God has helped.
내가 베드로다.
Let's say I'm Peter, let's say I'm John,
내 눈에 안 보여. 내 곁에
and I don't see Jesus with me, but Jesus is together with me. Do you understand?
예수님이 일하신다면
If Jesus is working,
하겠다는 그런 믿음은
then to this degree God will work, and that is the kind of faith that we have. Do you understand?
그냥 예수님 믿는 이론으로 예수님
And just by theory, you just believe in Jesus. Oh, Jesus fed the 5,000 with 5 bar loaves and 2 fish, but not that faith. The Jesus who has truly fed the 5,000, He is alive, and He has saved you, delivered you from sin, and we are His children, and we are having conference, and we need to eat. How many people that we have? We have around 20 people. We have not enough food.
어째 주십시오 하고
Jesus, please provide. And that heart to seek by faith.
연습을 좀 해야 한다.
And this is the kind of practice that we need in our lives.
그러면서 여러분들이
And everyone in your life.
떡이 막 거의 돌아왔는지 그 뭐죠 떡이 몇 개 안 되는 막
And not enough bread, and there was leftover fragments
우리가 가지고 있는
after 5,000 were fed. Even though we're difficult and not enough, we're able to truly apply this to many things. Everyone, I meet presidents.
얼마 전에 제가
Not too long ago, I met one mayor, and we had a 1-hour appointment. And I opened my mouth,
그것만
and I only preached the gospel. And exactly 1 hour, I finished the meeting, and then we left. And he received salvation.
그러니까 이제 이런 일들이
And these kind of things,
그건 아닐지라 첫
it may not be bread in the first level,
복음을 전한다.
but preaching the gospel.
전하는
I'm not good at preaching the gospel. I don't know how to witness.
그건 그냥 여러분 본래 생각에
Everyone, these are just your thoughts.
내가 전도를 못하지만
But let's say I am not good at witnessing. Let's say I cannot speak. Let's say I'm mute. If God allows me to speak, then I can speak, right?
맞아요.
Is that correct?
벙어리라 말
You may be mute and you cannot speak. But if God opens your mouth and allows you to speak, then you can speak the words out of your mouth, right?
만일 그렇다면 그것을
If that is the case,
믿음을 가지고
and when you have that faith, and you speak and go forward. Amen. I can't speak. I can't do it. Don't be like that. God, I'm a person who is faithless. But the Bible has promised me, God, isn't that right? Then I believe it will be fulfilled.
여러분 그렇게 여러분 믿음이 자라면
And when your faith grows in this way,
완벽하지 않다.
I am not perfect in this way. There are things which I couldn't do, but I have done and accomplished it through faith. And what I remember the most, after we finished missionary school, I went to Apgokdong. And in Apgokdong, I lived there for 9 months.
9개월 사는 동안에
And as I was living there for 9 months, I did not stretch forth my hands for help to anyone. I didn't steal. And I lived there for 9 months.
마지막 그때 제가 이제 거기 있다가 장
And as I was there, I moved to Changpali.
내가 여기 있다 굶어 죽을는지 모른다 그런 두려움이 있었어요.
If I had the faith that I might starve to death, then I would not have been able to stay there for 9 months. I either ran away or went somewhere else.
근데 그때마다 기도를
And
하고
every time I'll pray, God will provide me with food. And 9 months passed.
한 번도 사람께 내가 없는 걸
And not a single time did I
하고
show to people that I needed help, show people that I was hungry. I only relied upon God and prayed and sought for Him.
불가능한 일들을
Truly,
내게 행하시는 것들.
I could see how God was doing the impossible things through me one by one through faith.
교회가
And in our church, we have lots of church members, and financially we're not lacking, and many things are operating very smoothly, and there's no worries here.
모든 게 부족했어요.
But back then, everything we were in lack.
내가 기도했을 때
And when I prayed,
그런 거나 그
God answering my prayer and giving me
막연한 게
the money that I
아니고
needed. It wasn't just
믿음을 가지고
some vague faith,
정확하게
but it was
하나님의
the
일을
exact
그것을
faith in which
경험을
God has worked, and that is what I experienced.
자 여러분 경험하면 내가 안 했다 손 치더라도 여기 성경에서
But let's say I didn't experience, but in the words of the Bible
역사
of
일어나지 않습니까?
Jesus feeding
그렇죠.
the 5,000,
사실이거든요.
this is the truth, everyone.
그렇다면 여러분들
Then in your life, the life that you live, vaguely thinking, I have no money, what should I do? And my husband, he can't even make money. Don't be like that. If God is truly alive, if I'm difficult because of money, if I have no hospital fees to pay my child's treatment, if I seek by faith, oh, God says that believe that I received it. Oh, let me pray.
최소한 그런 마음이 일어나요.
You should at least have this heart.
이해가십니까?
Do you understand?
그래서 여러분들이 그냥
Then so
막연하게
everyone,
지나가는 게 아니라
don't just vaguely pass this time.
삶을 살다 보면
As you live your life, that time, why did God make me poor? Why did God, make me have no money? Oh, God wanted me to pray, and that's what you realize. That's what you discover. Oh, that's when I was able to receive my prayers answered, and God gave me money, and you're able to see how God leads you.
알고 뭘 하는 게 아니고
It's not how much by theory you know of the words, not just problems of money. I'm just talking about money because it's the most easiest thing to talk about. It can be your problems of your siblings or other various problems like your health.
그때 이제 우리가 기도할 때
And when we pray,
가능할까?
is this possible?
그건 가능 안 하지.
Of course it's not
내가 볼 때
possible.
그렇지.
When I see it, it's that way.
그렇지만
But
하나님은
God can do it.
이해가요?
Do you understand?
하나님 어떠할 때 일하시지?
Oh, when can God
돈이 없지만
work?
하나님 얼마든지
Even though I have no
나에게
money,
돈을 줄수 있으니까
God, He can give me money.
바로 기도하고
If I pray to God to give me money, and if I have the faith that God gives me money, then God is alive and working inside of me.
이해가십니까?
Do you understand?
그러면 여러분들 가운데
Then everyone amongst you, and when you see these things happen in your life, oh, why was I poor? Why didn't I have food? Why was I financially difficult at that time? For God to lead me to faith. At that time I had no money and I had to buy a car, praying to God. When I run out of food, when I had to go hungry, I pray to God and God provides me with food. And through these things in our lives,
안 보이는 예수님이지만
He may not be the Jesus you can see with your eyes, but He is alive and abiding within your heart. Do you understand? God works precisely. We are at least people who have received the forgiveness of sin and born again. As you believe, oh, I pray for money. God gave me truckloads of money. Not this kind of prayer. Do you understand what I'm saying? God will not give you that kind of money anyway. Because, we don't know where are you going to put your money? Where are you going to keep sake your money? You're going to be worried about your money all the time. So God will not give you that kind of money. You need the help of God. And when you truly need money, when you're truly in difficulty, when I'm sick, when I'm hurt, or when I'm having a conference, God, would you truly help me? God, if you do not heal me, then I cannot go to the conference. Then what should I do? And you can speak to God this way. And by the power of God, because it resides inside of us, and you ask God once and twice, and the precise thing is, the absolute thing is, and the first time you thought it was impossible, but you'll be able to experience, this is what God has done. And some people, they become realize, now I should also rely upon God. My husband, he retired, he was fired, he doesn't make any money. Don't blame your husband, but pray, God has allowed my husband to retire so that I will seek the Lord. And the problems that you face, the problems that you meet, if you just put God, if you just make Jesus idol, then Jesus will be bored. You must give Jesus the opportunities to work in your life, and that is what a Christian is. And in order for us to have faith, God allows us difficulties, and God allows us to have lackings in finance and other things. God, it is true that I have no money and I am in difficulty. But Lord, please, please provide and please give me money. Lord, if you do not give it to us, if you don't answer my prayer, what's the point of praying? So God, I'm praying right now, and please answer my prayer. It's okay, it's okay to pray like this. God understands your heart. Don't just don't just resent God, but God understands. Don't just be demanding of God. You can't be cursing at Pastor Park. Oh, Pastor, it's because of this reason, and you should understand what I'm saying. So people who have the ears to hear, let them hear. And so us and God, when we have this kind of relationship that is formed, a year passes by, you will change. 2 years passes by, you will change. And your spiritual capacity will grow. Making money, going to work and making money, anyone can do this. And among you, let's say you're weak and you can, unless your husband is bedridden, what are you doing during these times? During these times. And so even if I'm God, I will help. But God, you are God. You should help me. And so truly, sincerely, with your heart, and you wake up in the morning and pray to the Lord. Before praying 10 minutes and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and later into the night, and then as you pour all your heart to the Lord and pray to Him. Because God is God, your heart and God's heart will become connected. God, thank you so much. This is not done by my strength, but this is by the grace of God. Lord, you have blessed me. That is why I'm able to be blessed. And that is how things will progress. And as your faith grows, there's nothing more fun than to live spiritual life. And for many years, as I've been living for Jesus, I have witnessed numerous amount of times how through Jesus I was able to do the impossible. And even now, the church, they bought me a nice car, they provide me food and a place to stay, and I live without no lackings. And there are times when I have to use a large sum of money, and God provides. And I use it and spend it, and there are times like this. And the most important thing is your relationship between God, not just by theory, but a practical, true relationship with God. That is true spiritual life. I only talked about money because it's very easy to talk about money, but not just money, your health and all your problems. And when you face these problems, the Almighty God, I believe you, God, please help provide for me. God will not be saying, I don't know. Isn't that right? God is alive. That's true. And God wants our faith to grow. That's true. And if our faith wants to grow, then God needs to help us. If you pray to God 100 times and God does not answer your prayer, then why would you believe in a God like that? Not just believing in the words, but truly to allow the words to grow in your heart in faith. And you may try for the first time. I'm a pastor. I have to stand up on the pulpit to preach. And first, I don't see anything else. I only see eyeballs staring at me. And so in the beginning, I'm about to faint. I have no words to say. And as all the preaching that I prepare for, I forget it all when I stand up on the podium.
다 잊어버렸으니까 이게 무슨
And so I forget everything. I don't know what to talk about, and I begin to talk about just random things to begin with. Do you understand? Ah, maybe that's why Pastor talked about this before. And maybe now you understand.
모든 면에 완벽한 적 없고
We are not perfect in all ways, especially in the world of faith. The world that we live in, the world of faith, is completely different.
해서 아이들을 키우고 그래 살면 되는 법 알아요.
And we know how to conserve money and things like this, but not this world,
하나님으로 말미암아
but the world of God, not according to the strength of man, but the strength of God. When we experience such things in our lives, then truly your spiritual life will be renewed and be bright and will be happy. For example, you come to church. Please don't misunderstand. Here is the church, right? And so we tell you to come 10 a.m. because 10 a.m. service time. So I'm very nearby. So I just ride the car here. It takes me around 2 to 3 minutes to come here.
뭐 차도 좀 잘못될 수 있고
Sometimes, you can have problems with your car. You can miss the bus and whatnot. And you can miss the time and delay the time. And you can only be late to service. But everyone, if you have the heart to love Jesus, I may not have faith, but as I attend service, give my heart to the Lord during service, receive the words. Don't just say, "Oh, the sermon was good," but as you apply and adjust these things in your life,
우리가 하는 이 이야기는
the important thing is the words of the Bible,
살아 계시기
and because God is alive,
여러분들과 어느 누구도
and whoever you may be, you all can experience that relationship with God.
그것 한 번, 두 번,
And once and twice, 3 times, and over as you experience it,
믿음이란 게 형성.
then the faith to believe in God begins to form.
어떤 문제가 일어나도 이 문제
Whatsoever problems that you have, this problem God will help me.
이제 믿음이 몇
And
번
that's
경험.
and as you experience it several times, that's the level that you will reach.
여러분 그 문제가 진짜 불가능한 일들이
And so things that seem impossible,
됐을 때
but when you're able to overcome these things through God, then the faith that you have towards God will begin to increase.
그리고 어떤 마음이나 나도
And the heart that you have,
고생 좀 해보고 싶고
you will start to have a heart. I want to be persecuted, receive hardships for the Lord. Even if I am hungry for the Lord, I want to work for the church.
가깝게
And you become closer to the Lord.
내가
Then,
아내와 같이 살면서
as I live,
아내인데
as I live together with my wife,
마음을 알고
when you first live with your wife,
마음하고
you
통하는 부분이 있고
you learn about your wife's heart and you connect with your wife, and so that you can feel her heart more.
느끼고 경험을 하는 거예요.
We live our spiritual life with our hearts, and we continuously grow and learn more. And the more you grow, the more amazing thing is that as you live your lifetime,
70까지
let's say you live up to 80. I'm 80 years old. Let's say you live up to 80 years old.
만일 70살에
Let's say you receive salvation at 70 years old. Then this person will live a decade and die, right? Then this person learning faith for a decade, then your life will pass by so quickly. But that is not so. When you walk with faith and when you live spiritual life with the Lord, what happens is, God will provide for this as well. My relative, but my relative and I, we don't have a good relationship. And no matter how much I talk to him, he doesn't listen to me, always talks behind my back. I hate people talking behind my back. That is my pet peeve. But please, God, if you may allow, please open my relative's heart.
동서 저 친정 좀 잘 산다고 돈 하나 가져오는 것도 없으면서 커세만
And so he doesn't even have money, and he always asks for money, and he always pretends like he's all that. And having a heart
기독으로 사는 것도 아닌데 왜 나한테 큰
to hate him, and so but always raising his voice at you. I regret, getting married into this family. There are some times when you have these kind of hearts, and during these times, rely upon the Lord.
제가
It would be nice if my brother-in-law can receive salvation. Our brother-in-law's life and situation is very difficult and pitiful. It'd be so nice if God can bestow grace upon him. That bad, brother-in-law. He only just uses cunning brain and to get what he wants. And when you may hate your brother-in-law, you have a hateful heart. You can't live with him. But how about Jesus? Jesus, what about you? Jesus, I want to love my brother-in-law. Even though I try to love him, I cannot love him. But Jesus, you love him, don't you? And these kind of things, by faith, step by step, as you go forward, then you will truly change. God will help you, and in all aspects, you can experience God. From that point on, living by faith is so happy. And Saturday evening with the married men's meeting, and I'm so happy, so thankful that before around 50, 60 people came, and now we're all packed around 200 people. And so it is so crowded to the point that we might have to use the main chapel to gather. And all the brothers, who finish work and they come to church, and they have other things to do when they finish work, but they come to church and they fill the room. What are the hearts that some of the brothers may have? And I regret coming here. That's not the heart that they will have. But truly, as they come to seek God and to have a relationship with God, the relationship with God, that is what you need. Oh, this is difficult. And just because I pray, it's not going to work. Don't be like that. Oh, this problem, truly, Jesus, I really hope that you can solve this. When I pray to you, it would be good if it's just 1 or 2 months. I don't care, but please solve this problem. And as you have faith and as you seek Him, wow, this is what God has done. Something that is impossible to man. If it isn't the Lord, it is not possible. This is what the Lord has done. We have many of our pastors. They all learn. They all learn, but they can't do well. And it's hard to learn, and they continuously learn. And some people they open their hearts. Some people, no matter how much you talk to them, they talk about other nonsense. Why do I only meet these kind of people? No. It means that I'm a person who cannot nurture them very well. And as you grow in your personal relationships, and as other people around you become happy and joyful, and Jesus here, as He fed them with the fish and the bread, and there was 12 baskets of fragments left over. That's not a lie. That's what the Bible says. The Bible is not a lie. And this is not a made-up story. This is what truly has happened. Jesus, please help me. And first you think, Jesus is not going to help me. No, but as you pray, one day, Jesus, please, I must have this prayer answered. Or not, then I'll become more difficult. And as you more sincerely and fervently pray to God, and something that is impossible, it will be possible through God, and that's what you can experience, and you truly become happy. And even though and as I speak about this, there's many of you who have already experienced many of these things, especially our pastors, as it's very important to preach the gospel. Some people they understand the gospel, but they talk about other things, even though they say they realize the gospel. And so there
사람이 약 올리는 그 잘못 나도 그래. 그럴 때 있어요.
there are times, when I don't preach the gospel well, and we blame the person who is listening to the gospel. But as you learn and as you continuously preach the gospel and you grow, and through you,
10년에 한 명만 변해도
even if one person changes through you in 10 years, you will not forget this person for the rest of your life.
5년에
But not just 1 in 10 years, but how about 1 in 5 years, or 1 in 1 year,
한 달에 한 명 오면
or once a month? That is 12 people a year, and you
찾기 어려울지 못해.
to the point where it's difficult to find people to pray for.
살아계신 예수님
And truly, as you live before the Lord, pray.
또 살아계신 예수님 실제로 처음에는 어색하고 그랬던
In the beginning, it's an awkward situation between
그렇게
you and God, but
하고
as you pray and seek Him, then God will answer your prayer, and you'll be thankful and joyful in your heart. And as you truly see God working in your life, you want to pray more. You want to challenge yourself more. And you want to go to your neighbors and you want to explain to them,
설명을 잘 못한 것
"Oh, God, I don't think I explained it to my neighbor very well. I don't think I can preach the gospel very well. But God, please bestow your grace." And this is what it is. If I'm perfect, then I will not seek for God. Oh, this is the gospel. This is salvation. You receive salvation. That's not how things work.
강대상 올라오면
When I,
생각하는 말
when I come to the pulpit, I say things which I often don't think about, and that's what you must keep in mind.
그래서 이제 예수님이
And Jesus, He's alive and working in my heart. Amen.
이건 아무나 예수님
This is what Jesus has done.
너무 신기한.
So amazingly.
제가 통신훈련소에서
When I was in the communication training base, I was residing there.
보전 교육을 마치고
After we finished our training, and we were moved to the communication training base, there was ROC, SOC, ROC and such things.
ROC는
But ROC is radio operating course and is where you learn the Morse code, ROC. And so that was where I was
40년 교육
appointed to.
사회에서 모르서 구호하던 사람 전부 다 일로 보내요.
And so all the people who were already studying Morse code out in society, they're sent to this communication base.
그 사람은
And so these people, no matter how much I learned the Morse code, I cannot keep up with them.
땅에서
And
하던 안에
for me to rank in the top four among 40 of us, top four,
우리가 하는 40명의
all 40 of us will be decided.
어디로 보내라.
It's not
몇 명, 어디 몇 명, 어디 몇 명, 어디
it's not who and who will go somewhere, but it's how many people go this place and that place, and that is the
보낸 건
the
담당자가 자기 알아.
thing that is decided, and then the person who is
근데 내가 이제 우리
the officer, he's the one who decides where we go.
소장님이 1등
And so our platoon commander, so the top 4 people, they can choose wherever they want to go. And it doesn't make sense that I can be ranked in the top 4 because there's so many people who are doing Morse code out in the world already. I cannot beat them. And I prayed to God. What I prayed,
나하고 송수
me and Song Sun-jong
김창호하고
and Kim Chang-won, and so there's 3 of us.
흠으로 지나도 사람들 만나서
And so I met the Chalado people for the first time, and I stayed with them.
사람이 그렇게 착한 줄 처음
It was the first time I seen the Chalado people. They were so kind.
하여튼 저는 복을 받아.
Anyway, I was so blessed.
돈 한 푼 나가지 않는다.
I didn't take a single penny with me, but every day they would buy me bread.
장호이가 어느 날 보고 그저 송순정이
And Song Sun-jong, he told me,
목사
"Hey, Pastor Park,
빵값 내놔게.
Hey,
빵값을
hey, pay the bread money." Oh, I remember. What bread money? And it's, oh, I paid for the bread all that time for you. Oh, that's right.
야 너도 이리 와.
And so there was
고생하면
the training commander in our base, and so we saluted him, and so he called us over and I said, "Can you give awards to trainees?" Yes, and they gave us trainees to us all, saying because we saluted him so well, and so we received a vacation for 4 days.
송순정이 제일
And Song Jin-jong, he wanted to go home, but he said, why would you want to go home? Don't go home. And I told him to follow me.
대구
And Daegu, Apgokdong, Changpalli, I took him around everywhere.
그러니까 사복을 다
And so 4 days passed,
요즘도
and he's always complaining about me.
미국에서 햄버거
And so no, and so he hated me back then because of that.
생활을 했어요.
That's how we lived our military days.
이제 우리 셋이서 기도하기
And the three of us, what we prayed was
우리 셋 중에 하나는 여기
one of us must remain to do the work of the gospel in this training base, because this training base is so good, and we must continuously operate this church. And we prayed.
근데 내가 졸업한 날 아침인데
In the morning when I graduated, and so the training base commander, he really treated me well, and he was believer of Jesus. But when he came to the military, he said he drank and smoked and became corrupt. And he said that when he saw me, he reminded me when he was a believer back then. And that morning, the training officer, I waited before his office, and I saluted him. And I said, "Today is the day I graduate, sir. Thank you so much for helping me until now." And I came to say my greetings.
우리는 이등병이었다 이제 졸업한 날
And so the day that we graduate, we become private first class. And he told me, "Private first class park, remain here." And what he told me was, private first class Oksu Park.
수경사 우리 부대 차하고 수경사 그다음에 오고니 장통
So there is the zero. There is the capital defense and the long distance communication base. And I wanted to send you to these places, but I thought that it would be nice if you can stay here by my side for my spiritual life. And so I made you stay in this training base. So don't feel too upset about that. And please help me and let's work together, he said.
절대적 그 부대에 머물 수 있는
I'm a person who
얻으면 안
have no skills or whatsoever to stay in that base, but he allowed me to remain in that base.
감사합니다. 경례 딱 하고
Thank you, Commander. And I saluted him. And I went to my room and I told God, "God, thank you so much for answering my prayer. And these are things which I cannot forget."
한번 훈련 소장님이
One day, the platoon commander,
이야기 하는데
as I was preaching, there's a door that opened.
종교를 계속해라.
And then he says, "Continue your religion," he said. And so I continued the religion. So before the colonel,
하여튼 했어요.
I was preaching.
이분이 내 설교 끝나
And after I finished my preaching,
한마디 해도 되나?
can I say one word to you all? Who can stop him? And he stood on the pulpit.
너희들이 언제부터 이런 종교가 나?
When have you been doing this religious gathering? I have not received any reports of this. And what he said,
그 이제 우리나라 가장 전쟁이 많았던 지역 그 이름 뭐죠?
in the place where we had the most battles was what?
예, 백마고지.
Yes, the hill of the white horse.
백마고지는
The hill of the white horse. So on both sides is plainland, but the hill it is, and so it is a strategic location where we need, and the enemy needs as well.
제가 백마고지보다 높다 정도로.
And so to the point where so many people, dead bodies have died, that the dead bodies piled up, it will be higher than the hill of the white horse.
망군인들은
And the north is good at night battles, and the south was good at day battles. And all the time, the owner of that hill will change. And so during that time, he was a platoon commander. And he said, I was assigned to the hill of the white horse.
몇월 며칠 전투를 통해서 백마고지 탄환하라 그랬다.
And we were told to attack
백마고지는
the hill of the white horse.
우리보다 죽은 시체가 더 많은데 전체 다 모으.
If you gather all the corpse that is higher, it will stack up higher than the actual hill of the white horse. And they were waiting deep into the night to attack. And almost guarantee that you die when you fight in the hill of the white horse. So in every barrack, as the commander was visiting, people they're crying as they're holding their guns.
그때 중대장이
During that time,
꽃 같은 젊은이들이
these young men who are in their flowery young age, why did this war have to happen for them to die? And that's the heart he had. But every barrack that he visited, and there's one barrack that he visited, and there's one person who was kneeled down to the floor and mumbling, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, salute, sir.
너 지금 뭐 하냐?
What are you doing?"
기도하고 있어.
"I'm praying."
깜짝 놀래.
And he was shocked, he said.
기도.
"Praying? Praying? You're praying to God?" "Yes." "Are you praying for me?" I'll begin to pray for you now." "Oh yeah, pray for me."
그다음 방공을 하나하나
And he went to every barrack. "Hey, it's okay if you believe in Buddhist. It's okay if you believe in the sky god. It's okay if you believe in any other god, but just pray."
죽는다 다 아니까 내가 지금
And they know that they'll all die tomorrow. They'll become dead bodies, and they are thinking about their parents, and they're crying, and they were praying.
그 이제 대원들 하나하나 기도를 하라고
And so every barrack was told to pray, and they were told to attack.
가장 적은 희생자
And with the least amount of casualties, they took over the hill of the white horse.
우리 소장님은
And our commander,
종교의 힘이 이렇구나. 그
and
신앙
he discovered the power of religion.
동시훈련 소장님께서
And he became the commander of the communication training base. There was no chaplain, no church, and he was very pained to hear that.
할리에서 부대에 왔는데 우리 찬송한 소리 듣고 들어와.
One day he came to the base,
깜짝 놀래.
visited the base, and he heard singings of hymns, and he came to the chapel, and he was shocked.
소장님하고
During that time, I was private first class, and I worked together with the colonel, and we built a chapel.
근데 돈이 없잖아요.
And we had no money,
차 있어가지고 자동
and so we had cars, and we will stack up the car with sand, and we'll give it up to the construction company, and they'll burn bricks for us.
좀 먹고 그리고 뭐 그래가지고
And as we got the bricks and we stacked it up, and then we were able to build and put the roof on, and we built a chapel together with the colonel. And not too long later, after I built the chapel, there was the Vietnam War. And the communication soldiers, they die a lot in the Vietnam War. And in the Vietnam War, they are told to not kill the commander, but they're told to kill the communication soldiers, because if you kill the communication soldier, they have no way to escape from where they are. So many communication soldiers, they died in the Vietnam War. And so I saluted the colonel and says, "I have been assigned to go to the Vietnam War." "Yes." "Hey, training officer, take him off." And he took me out.
너 왜 돌아왔어?
"Hey, why did you come back?"
중대장 가지 마라 했습니다.
"Oh, the colonel told me not to go. The colonel told me not to go." "What kind of relationship do you have with the colonel?" "Oh, it's a superior and subordinate relationship." And from that day, the administrative soldier, he was always,
우리가
know,
삶을 살면서 이건 진짜
this is truly Jesus.
예수를 믿는 사람들은 이런 것들을 경험합니다.
This is what
이건
Christians experience.
하나님이 한 일이다. 하나님
This is what God has done. No one else besides God can do this. And these kind of things has been lining up in my life.
그래서 제가 하나님 믿어요.
That is why I believe in God,
하나님 경험하는
because I continuously experience God.
저는 믿음 처음부터 잘하는 게 아니고
That's why in the beginning, it's not that people that have faith, but you have difficulties and hardships. You feel like there is no light at the end of the tunnel,
그냥 애들 재워놓고
and so you make your kids fall asleep. You pray, and then you send them to school. You pray, but as you continuously pray and you become sincere,
불가능한 일들이
and things that seems impossible become possible.
그럼 우리는
Then, this is what God has done, and that's the heart that you have,
도와줘요.
and you become close to God.
근데 뭐라도 그냥 하나님 부탁하지 우리 아이들 장래를 위해서 내가 몇 살까지 살지 모르지만 우리
I'm not sure how long we'll live,
하나님 내가 정말
but
나이가 많은데
surely I'm old, and before I die,
잘 키워주고
please raise my children very well. And you can pray these prayers, and God will answer your prayer.
그게 돈을 버는 것 그럼 훨씬
It's so much better than making money.
부부 사이에 일어난 일들이나
And things that happen
가정 일이나
with your spouse,
일이나
with your family, with your children, and especially to those sisters. This will happen a lot. There's a, and don't be this way, but mom will pray for you and pray for your children. Wake up in the morning, come to the early morning service and pray. And remember, and you'll be able to experience how God answers your prayer. And you'll become close to God. You'll become close to Him. Even in the small things, by God's grace, I have experienced God working. There are 5,000 men. Then probably there's with the women there'll be around 7,000, 8,000 people. Were they not able to eat? No. This isn't a lie. This is the works which God can do. Everyone, you may go through these things. And you may have lots of guests, but you only have 2 bowls of rice. You may have no rice. And during these moments, pray to God. God is alive. And when you truly pray with a sincere heart, and when you believe, and you may not be sure of anything, but God, He surely listens to your prayer, and your faith grows. And when your faith grows, it's much better than having an increase in your salary. You cannot compare. Not just with money. God has done so much of those things in my life. I'm nothing. But these words of salvation, God has allowed me to realize this. You know, all the churches, they say that they're sinners. Our church members here, we have learned the precise forgiveness of sin. And people who don't know precisely, who have just recently came to our church, they can learn, and we have all become experts in this. And as Jesus lives in our hearts, we experience Him once, twice, thrice. As you become closer to Him, when you send your children to a far country, and you cry and say goodbye, even if you worry 100 times, you can't do anything. My son is in a far country. Lord, please protect him. And please allow him to come back with joy. And even if you pray very briefly like this, and as you pray more and more, you can pray sometimes you pray for 30 minutes, 50 minutes, and even an hour. And when that prayer remains in your heart, and things one by one begins to be fulfilled. And when you become that person, then you become close to God. And you begin to know that God is the one answering your prayer. And whatsoever problems that come in your way, you will not be despaired, and you pray and have faith before the Lord. And your children will be blessed, and you can live a glorious life. In our mission, when we first started at a church, we had lots of difficulties. But as God has given us such a nice church, and this is such a great land here in Seoul, great location. God has given us all these things. In the beginning, because the land here was so expensive, we were about to buy a land that is 2 kilometers away from here. In the Cheonggi mountains, under the hill, we're about to buy lands there. And it may not be inside the city, but we're about to buy that land. But the owner of this land, he received all the construction permit to build a building here, a warehouse, but he became bankrupt. And there were the creditors who was also involved in this, and as I called him and says, I'll pay the money to the owner, and so you can get the money from the owners, but help us out. And we told them, and we bought this land, and miraculously the reason how we were able to build this chapel was because the owner of this land previously, he has received a construction permit. Because he received a construction permit, we have changed and made adjustments to the blueprint, and later on we were reported and whatnot, the difficulties, but God has allowed us to build a church in this land, and we're so thankful.
옆에 딱
In the land right next to us,
구청에서 말도 안 되는
and so the city district, they saying nonsense and saying that we cannot build anything there. I mean, we're fighting and we're praying right now,
응답으로
and
경험할 수 있어요.
so that we can experience how God will work through
이야기하고 싶지만
us praying. And as I say it again,
돈이 없어도
we may not have money, we may not be good looking, we may be poor, but if God is with us, if God is with us, better than money, better than all things that you're good at, so much better.
하나님 가까이
And I hope that you may become closer to God, and maybe pray together, discuss together, and as things changes one by one, then you can experience how God works,
어려운
and especially
하면 그 응답을 보면
as you see how God answers your prayer, and you truly feel like God has answered your prayer, and you feel so joyful and blessed as you experience it again and again, then you can continuously pray to God. Then God, you feel love of God much more in your life. There's nobody who doesn't have difficulties. There's nobody who doesn't have hardships. As you raise your children, and during these times, may you pray to God, and may you speak to God, and may our children be raised blissfully inside of the Lord. Thank you, everyone.